So, in my first trip to the Superstition Mountains, I went and there was a big mountain and there was little mountains around it. And the way some of these little mountains, it's like when you start walking towards it, the beginning towards Lost Dutchman State Park. Those rocks, they're like pillars. And there's a certain area in those mountains, in the little ones, when you're barely getting there. You can really tell how the formation of the rock really blends in. Like, people purposely made it look that way. But someone carved this mountain to look like a goat man in a hoodie, opening a box which some winged creature is dropping in hearts. But there's also an all-seeing eye at the bottom of that mountain. But that was on my first trip, and that would signify to me that there is gold in those mountains, in those boulder things. So that was my first trip. My second trip was the one when I got lost. I went through the Tonto National Park, the national forest, and through that parking lot. There's a bunch of parking lots, a long trail of sand, dirt, and I went through it all the way to the top. And there was this map there with like purple paint on it, and it was in a case, and that's the area I went through. I went straight down. I was trying to go to Battleship Canyon, and I ended up traveling through the night, and I laid down in a river, on the side of a river, and one of the mountains, Battleship Mountain, I didn't know at the time, it resembles a fish at an angle. And from the opposite side, that's where I fell asleep. I could see this mountain moving as my eyes were starting to close. I could see it drifting like if it was moving. And the next day, I found a genie's lamp with hieroglyphics around it. The genie's lamp was purposely placed into this mountain wall. Like someone carved a hole perfect enough and then put cement and then placed that genie's lamp into that mountain. Jasper. Carved out of jasper. And there was a river and hieroglyphics there too. The hieroglyphics were as like someone burnt the rock to resemble a colored man. There was brown person hieroglyph there too, and red hieroglyph people there too. And one of them had a genie's lamp, and with the purple quartz going around it and then shooting into the side of these bushes on that same rock wall. But I recorded everything and I dropped my phone in those mountains when I was trying to get out, so everything I recorded, it was gone. But I didn't touch the genie's lamp. The water, it scared me, so I didn't get in until the end. But that fish that you see on your screen right now, that's Battleship Mountain, and at an angle it looks like a giant fish. That's what I saw, but from the opposite side. So that next morning I walked down the river, and I saw a giant's footprint in that river after the genie's lamp. And it was on this rock on the side of this river. It was a 3-foot giant's footprint in length and 1 foot in width. I measured with my foot, but it was a giant's footprint. And after that was a jasper stone protruding from the ground. It had a number 8 symbol carved into it, etched into it. And then later on, I would walk down that river and find an eagle's cave with 8 eagles' nests in it. They were empty. I stuck my head out. I walked in and went to the top, and I stuck my head through and saw a giant statue of an Apache, or a giant statue of an Indian man with a feather on his head, carved out of stone, with a giant spyglass like someone placed it into his hand. Big old one. And he was looking to a cave, and this cave had gold melting out of it, and a bird with green, red, and gold into this cave wall. And I also wanted to point out that there is a jasper forest not that far from the Tonto National Forest, and that genie's lamp was carved out of jasper. And when I was leaving, when I finally found my way out, I found this a place called Cusco's Island. There's a giant rock in that water that is carved to look like a fish, but it's carved out of jasper stone. Something easily placed it into that water. So that was just before I left, and I found that very interesting. And I was afraid to get in that water for some reason. But that was in my second trip. And whatever it was in or is in that genie's lamp, there was something that happened. And people were bartering from the Jasper Forest and bringing it to the Tonto National Forest, the Superstition Mountains, where genies are said to roam to. So that was my second visit to those mountains. I survived the night, and it was on the opposite side of that fish that I found that genie's lamp. So wherever that was, by a river, that's where that genie's lamp is. So the Lost Dutchman's gold mine isn't the only thing that is in those mountains. There's a lot more than people have been able to comprehend. There were giants. Something had to have carved that giant statue of an Indian man with a spyglass. And I did find a stone of the Freemasons there, or some sort of knights which visited at the time. And these were islands. Don't forget, these were islands. And then the water went down and they became mountains. And Triton Mountain is one of the mountains that tells me that this goes way back. Even the Dutchman that I found, it looks like it's carved out of bedrock. And this guy that is on the screen is looking towards the Lost Dutchman that I found. And I'm sitting on Triton's Mountain right now, at the bottom of his tail. And there are tales of a war in the rocks, of a war between giants and men, and tells where they were at and how they were in these mountains or in a volcano at one point in time. But I just wanted to share how old these mountains are. I did find giant river turtle footprints in stone on my third visit there. And this is my fourth visit. The images on the screen, that's my fourth visit, and I found the Lost Dutchman. And I didn't go in. I did find a javelina's jawbone, but I wasn't going to go in. There's a lot there, carvings of Mayan carvings. You just gotta look at the rocks above it. There's Dutchman right there. You can see his hand tattooed on my neck as well. But I did it, and I just want my story to get through. I did see something at the end of my trip when I shot my gun at the time. There was this creature. The grass, there was tall grass that was like about 7 or 8 feet. I thought it was 10 feet. But this creature had its head protruding over it. But it could have been the neck of a giant bear or the Mongolian monster that inhabits the Tonto Forest as well. So I shot my gun and it ran off in heavy footsteps and I survived. So yeah.